Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I'm Justin, and I'm just the local roti maker.
I am Nico, and I'm one of Justin's regulars.
I'm Dan, and I'm here for the friendship.
And today, we are continuing our look at horror around the world. This week, we're covering India and the Middle East, and for our review today, we're covering Stree. Directed by Amar Kaushik, this stars Rajkumar Rao as Vicky, Shraddha Kapoor as an unnamed woman, Abhishek Banerjee as Jana, Aparshakti Khurana as Bitu, Pankaj Tripathi as Brother Rudra, and Flora Saini as the Stree. So we open with Vicky, a young and extremely gifted tailor in the village of Chanderi. The village is about to go into an annual festival period which lasts for 4 days. During the course of the festival, there's also kind of accompanying legend of a local ghost named Stree, who was killed along with her husband on their wedding night. Now, she abducts local men, leaving behind only their clothes, or so the legend goes. To avoid this, men stay in groups and they paint "Oh Stree, come tomorrow" on the walls of their houses. While on break from work, Vicky runs into an extremely pretty woman who asks him to make a dress for her. Charmed, Vicky agrees, and she tells him that she'll be at the local temple that night. I mean, I'm sure things are going to work out great for Vicky, right, Nico?
In the short term, things seem okay. So soon after, Vicky runs into his friends Jana and Bitu and tells them about the girl that he just met. Pretty psyched about it and just excited as any guy would. And they make fun of him, as good friends also would. That night, though, they head to the local temple for the first night of the festival, and they make plans to go to a party after. Vicky tells him that he will meet them all later, and he goes and meets up with the mysterious woman from the night before, and they have a conversation where she hands him a letter and tells him to open it the following day. Meanwhile, Jana and Bitu encounter Rudra, a local scholar, who starts to tell them a way to avoid Stree, but drives off, forgetting to actually tell.
Okay. Dan, how's that follow-up?
So at the party, Vicky meets up with his friends, and he ends up leaving them briefly to use the bathroom outside. And he actually pisses on the writing that protects the house.
You don't piss on hospitality.
You don't piss on streetality.
Or paint. Anyway.
Causes the writing to smudge, no longer being effective. So later that night, Stree ends up kidnapping a man from the party. The following day, Vicky reads the letter and finds that it is a list of odd ingredients, including hair from a white cat and a lizard's tail. Confused, Vicky dutifully follows and collects the ingredients while his friends make fun of him once again.
His friends sure make fun of him a lot. Good thing that my friends would never do that. But that night, after going to the temple for the second night of, festivities, Vicky presents the ingredients to the mysterious woman, and she's delighted. She takes him to a place in the woods where they kind of share an intimate moment. He kind of takes her, her dress measurements in a real kind of intimate fashion. And right when they're about to kiss, though, she disappears. Meanwhile, Bitu and Jana theorize that the woman Vicky's been seeing actually is the Stree, and they look for him. They can't find him, and when the two split up to go to their separate homes, Jana is actually kidnapped by Stree. So, Dan, we're down one team member already. Dan, what happens?
So at this point, B2 is pretty convinced that she is Stree, and he tells Vicky. And Vicky just decides, hey, fuck it, I'm just going to make her dress and then go confront her. He hands her the dress and asks if she is Stree, but he does not get an answer. He goes to ask someone else if they can see her as well, but when he turns around, she's disappeared. Vicky and B2 head to see Rudra to see if there's a way to rescue Jana, and the trio head to Stree's lair. In the lair, Vicky is attacked by Stree, but the unnamed woman comes to his aid. The group escape from Stree's lair and find Jana on the way back. But things aren't all good, because as it turns out, Jana is actually possessed.
Hell.
And he goes around at night and erases all the protective writings from the homes of a number of people. Vicky and company managed to restrain him the following morning, but the Stree has already kidnapped about 20 men. The men of the town begin to panic and stay inside while the women continue about their day as normal because they're not being hunted. Vicky and his team speak to the town historian, who gives them a description of a hero that can save the town. Turns out that description perfectly matches Vicky.
Who'da fucking thunk it? That night, Vicky, the unnamed woman, B2, and Rudra had to plan to finally defeat Stree for good. Vicky poses as her groom, and she dares to approach him. The unnamed woman shows up and attacks, saving him. And together, Vicky and the unnamed woman defeat Stree, and Vicky cuts off the ghost braid, rendering it powerless. The kidnapped men from the village then reappear, spelling victory for our heroes. But the following day, however, Vicky, he's a little sad. He's faced with a bittersweet moment as this unnamed woman, she's got to go bye-bye. As she's boarding the bus to leave, Vicky asks how he can contact her, to which she just says, "Just think of me." And as the bus drives off, Vicky realizes that he still doesn't even know her name, Lamau. The movie ends on a scene of her on the bus wherein she absorbs Stree's braid into her own, thus acquiring her powers. And then there's a dope song during the credits that just fucking rules.
I see. And to be honest, so this is kind of like I don't want to say a twist, but it's a twist, is it not?
That there's a song in the credits?
Oh, not the song in the credits, bro. You really like that song, huh? No, I'm talking about the ending, but we'll get more to that down the road. Or should I say, down the street.
Boo.
Okay. Well.
We all know you
ahead.
can do better, Justin.
Oh, I will. I've got a bunch of them. So let's start with how this film looks. And I'm going to lead off here. I think the film looks pretty good, actually. You know, especially coming from not Hollywood, I think it looks really good. The only major gripe I have with the way the movie looks is there's segments where the Stree is chasing people, and it looks like they literally have a doll on a string flying.
It's pretty
through the air.
Scooby-Doo-ish. I'm not going to front.
And like people are running away scared from this thing, and like I'm not really a fan of like when they do that. Now, in a real ironic kind of twist almost, it looks better when they zoom up closer on the Stree's face, because then they have an actual person and they did like effects on the person. So I thought then it looks pretty good. But aside from that nonsense with the doll or whatever, the rest of it looks fine. I mean, it's not a movie that needs a ton of special effects the way that they do it. And I thought it was pretty good. But Dan, how about you?
Agreed. And I actually, when Stree is floating but not moving and it's just stationary, I thought it looked pretty cool.
Agreed.
But then, as soon as it started to move, I was like, that looks a little cheesy. But I agree with everything you said.
Nice. Nico, how about you?
Yeah, and I think it gets away with that, particularly because this is a flick that delves really well into the comedic side of things. You know, it's not a nail-biting, white-knuckle affair where you're scared shitless. It's something where you are pretty clearly meant to laugh. I mean, at the end of the movie, or towards the end of the movie, rather, Vicky even just gets mad at Stree and is like, "Hey, stop the yelling! What is all this? This is so unnecessary!" So, like, tonally, it works. Even though it is very silly, it works. And the other visuals are really nice. You know, we've got some scenes of, I don't know, would you call this, like, rural-ish? It's not really a city, but it's a neighborhood.
It's not. It's a very small city. It's not like a. It's not quite countryside, although there is certainly countryside aspects to it.
Yeah.
But it's like a small city.
Yeah, there's a lot of different places that the movie takes place in. Oh, yuck. And we get a lot out of the set design. So shout outs to them for that.
Now, audio here, I guess, Dan, what are you going to say about this? And I also want to, because this is the first kind of Bollywood joint we've actually seen. And obviously, you know, we've got a couple dance numbers. I think one big dance number and then a couple songs splintered throughout. So how do you feel about that?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. The soundtrack bumps. I think a lot of music was fucking cool, actually. And it has a lot of traditional Hindi elements mixed with sort of a more Western vibe to them as well, almost like hip hoppy pop kind of sounds to them, Western hip hop pop, which I thought was pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, the soundtrack just fucking bumps.
Okay. Nico, tell us about the last song since you like that song so much.
I don't have anything particular to say other than it's good.
I get the feeling this is a really good song, right? Isn't
Yeah,
I'm playing
it is a really good song, but like, I mean, lyrically, it's got good content. It's got a nice I don't know what to say. It's a good fucking song. But what I will say about two other particular parts that made me laugh quite a bit is there's a part where Vicky is looking for the fur from the cat, and they're playing this like James Bond theme-esque thing on a sitar. Yes. I was dying. And then in the scene where Jana is basically hulking out, they've got some fucking Tony Hawk's Pro Skater ass music in the background as he's just like destroying tables and shit. And I was also dying.
The only other thing I have to add to the sound design, so they have certain scenes where they're like out in the wilderness or maybe in the woods or something like that, and they have kind of like a stock-ish animal noise sound.
Monkeys and
the
shit.
monkeys.
Yeah.
Yo, I was dead. Like this dude like looks out into the woods and you hear like wah, 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 and I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck is going on out?
It's like Justin was doing the sound effects.
Bro, I mean, it was funny. And Nico, I think to kind of your earlier point, I think it works with everything the movie's trying to go for here. Now, Dan, I want you to tell us this movie and the Stree is actually kind of based around something called Nale Ba. So why don't you tell us the history of that?
Oh my God.
They're going to keep coming.
So Nale Ba was an urban legend from back in the 90s. And it was, Nale Ba was a witch that walked around the streets at night knocking on people's doors.
Mm-hmm.
And she would call out to the people in the house in the voices of either their mother or their friends or, you know, somebody familiar to them so that they would answer the door. And then when they did answer the door, she would kill them. And the way to get around, you know, the witch visiting you would be to write Nale Ba on your door, which means come tomorrow. So the witch would return the next day, see the sign that says Nale Ba, and she would return the next day, and the cycle would just kind of continue over and over.
What if you just didn't answer? Like, how would the Nale Ba react to a classic anxious millennial refusing to answer their door whenever you get a doorbell ring?
I mean, if it was, you know, if Justin knocked on your door and was like, yo, Nico.
I mean, yeah, answer? But like in that case, one, I would know Justin's there. Two, like if it's someone just completely unexpected, that hits a little different than like, hey, yo, bro, what's good?
But how would you know Justin's there?
I would know.
This was in the 90s.
I would know.
Bro.
No cell phones.
I would know.
Not going to call you, beep you if he's going to reach you.
I would know because there would be the sounds of some sort of fracas in the jungle nearby. And I would know that Justin was wreaking havoc on the local wildlife.
That's his calling card, the local fracas.
The fracas. Yeah. Oh, you listen, Dan's like, hey, I thought Justin was coming tonight. Nico listens. He perks an attentive ear. Like make
He's
those
on
fucking
his way.
the sounds like the old Hanna-Barbera monsters.
That's fucking Bonner and his nature friends.
Oh my god. New lore for the podcast. Bonner can actually summon animal friends. I'm not shitting you. I've seen him do this IRL, bro. So I want to go ahead and, Nico, touch upon a point that you've already talked about now, which is the genre. So this movie sits pretty comfortably in the realm of horror comedy. So how well would you say this movie does that?
Really, really well, honestly. Like this, like I said, isn't a movie where you are going to be sweating and making some sort of blog post about it. Like, this is the most terrifying movie of the last decade, but that's fine. It does have moments that are pretty scary, I think. Stree in general, in terms of the design of the character / legend, is really interesting. She doesn't just look like a generic ghost. Like she has an actual design to her with lots of color, lots of sort of identifying features. She's got that little head tilt, her eyes glow. It's unique, and that really helps add to the atmosphere. And in terms of the comedy, this is a really fucking funny movie. Like, I really laughed a lot at this.
I agree. One of my favorite moments in the movie, it's like Vicky, B2, and Rudra, and they are arriving at the Stree's hideout for the first time, and they're all like trying to silently make their way up, and then Vicky lets out the biggest fucking sneeze, and then he's like, "What? I'm allergic to dust. Come on, let's go." And I'm just like, bro. And there's just like a lot of small, like funny moments that happen in it. So in the town, they use friendship to essentially refer to like prostitution, basically. Like that's what they do. So there's a little bit of a misunderstanding at the very end where the unnamed woman's like telling Vicky that she like wants a friendship. And he's like, whoa, hang on. Are we talking about like friendship A or friendship B? And obviously, she's talking about friendship A, which is just, building a relationship with him or whatever. But I don't know. Like, there's a lot that happens in that's pretty funny. I mean,
his
Dan,
dad
any
goes
last
and
words?
tells him to jack off, which is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a real awkward conversation where it turns out that, the dad gets the completely wrong idea when a lady's asking Vicky for payment, and the lady has a reputation. Vicky didn't actually do anything with her. It was like a friend that got kidnapped, and now she's coming to him because it was his fault. The friend got kidnapped. And the dad's like, oh, you gotta like, I would suggest you find someone else that you don't have to pay. And like, in the meantime, you can tame your energy in these ways. And Vicky's like, bro,
Become
stop.
self-reliant.
But Dan, any kind of things about the comedy aspect of this movie?
I actually liked a lot of the banter. There's just a lot of like under the table isn't the right word, but just there's a lot of banter. There's a lot of like I think one of my favorite points is when Jana is possessed and he's like wrecking shit, and like he starts going after B2, and B2's like, no, I'm already 70% injured. Go attack somebody else. Or whatever. Like, there's just like all this shit that they're saying. And it's just funny as shit. Yeah, and even like I think at one point they even like slap Jana.
Yeah,
just like and the movie doesn't even make a big deal out of it. It's just like slap, and they just like keep moving on. Like, I don't know. I like a lot of that kind of shit. So
Yo,
I thought that was hilarious.
It killed me because in addition to the scene where Nico brought up where Vicky, like the Stree screaming, he's like, what? Stop screaming. There's a part where Jana's doing kind of similar thing. And then he tells him to like, shut the fuck up. And it's just like, he stops for like a quick second. And then he's like, nah, I'm possessed, bro. And then just like keeps going at it anyways. I'm just like, yo. So that is kind of funny. But I also wanted to talk really quick about some of the tropes because there's a really big one that gets kind of turned on its head, which is this movie almost kind of makes fun of the idea of like the local scholar having the answers or like some ancient learned person. Because the dude who is the local scholar in the village, he's like, I feel like he's like 50% a con man. He's like, yeah, I'm like a MA, I'm like an MD.
That's
PhD.
why I said you were Rudra.
Yo, Rudra hits him with the line. He was like, I was raised by crocodiles. Like I was raised with crocodiles. I was like, bro, what? And I loved the kind of like trope that they did stick with, which is they never fully explain how to defeat the monster until the very end. Because Rudra apparently has all the answers. But whenever he's trying to tell somebody, like there's a part where he's trying to tell a crowd of people, he has like a microphone and he's like, and this is the last thing you need to know about the Stree. And then like the microphone cuts out or the megaphone or whatever he has. I'm just like, bro, that shit is too funny. But there's one big thing I want to talk about in this movie, and that is kind of the big overall encompassing theme, which is gender dynamics and how they undergo a really profound, almost switch around during those days when the village is kind of afraid of the Stree. So, Dan, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we have Stree hunting men, and usually it's the opposite. You know, a spirit is hunting women, or unfortunately, in real life, oftentimes it is people hunting women.
Mm-hmm.
So like during the day and night and everything, women can just in this film, women can just walk around like normal. They just live their lives as normal, and they're sort of almost protecting the men, and the men are the ones who have to kind of stay at home and I don't know, cower in fear, if you will. And yeah, that's definitely a major reversal from what often happens.
Mm-hmm. And Nico, I mean, there's even kind of a moment where, some of the men suggest, well, maybe they need to go out and like wear, like some saris or whatever else like that
Yeah.
to try and disguise themselves. So it's kind of interesting because I thought the movie tackled it pretty well. They never like sat you down and said, hey, this is the deal. It was just evidence that we could see building as things go on. How did you feel about it?
I liked it a lot. I really, really, really did. Particularly at the ending when they kind of put their money where their mouth was and actually honored Stree. One of the final shots is Stree coming back to look at the village. What was it, a year later or something?
Yes.
Yeah, a year later. And there's a statue of Stree with a plaque that says, instead of, "Oh, Stree, come tomorrow," it says, "Oh, Stree, protect us." And that kind of gets Stree to stop in her floating paces. She pauses and looks at it. And it's just kind of like, huh, all right. You're not bad. You're not bad. So I really like that they actually just took the time to be like, oh, okay, yeah, we were kind of shitty. Let's change that. And they actually did.
I also like there's to the point that we've mentioned a couple times where when Vicky is sort of fighting Stree and he's just like, stop yelling. Why are you yelling so much? You don't have to do that all the time. She does stop momentarily. And they mentioned previously that she is obedient. Like a good wife is obedient, right? So she does stop yelling. And then she starts up again because like, fuck all the traditional, like, oh, a woman is supposed to be this way or that way. Or
you won't do what you tell me.
Yeah, that's right. And I thought that was kind of cool that they were like, oh, yeah, we're going to follow tradition. No, we're not. So.
Yeah. I mean, there was a scene where they go to see that town historian, and the town historian basically like tells them all this stuff about women and whatnot, and they leave. And then afterwards, the town historian's like, right. So that attitude was basically the attitude of the town towards Stree and everything else like that. And the movie does have a couple kind of very subtle things to say about that. I would say that's like kind of the backbone of the whole movie, so to speak, is that. And it's also, I don't know, I think the idea or kind of the concept itself is really, really cool that they have this yearly, you know what I mean? Like this is like a yearly thing where even if it's just a tradition, the people do take it mostly seriously. Stree, because people have disappeared. It's not just like some odd tradition. Like people have disappeared. People do take it very seriously. And there's some other stuff, about like men, like in writing and stuff like that, about like men not staying out past like 10 o'clock and like moving in groups. It's basically advice that gets mirrored to women. And it's a very cool switch around to see it happen in this circumstance. So I liked that. And also, just as a quick note, I think this movie is very palatable for a Western audience. I think that if you're going to introduce somebody to, like a film from India or, specifically even like Indian horror, this is a great jumping off point because it's super palatable. And I think the themes is part of a reason why, I think. But I gotta ask, does the legend of, Stree remind you of anything else you might have heard in haunting stories or ghost stories, Nico?
So the closest thing I can think of would be something like a yurei in Japanese folklore, something, akin to the spirit from Ju-on or something that instead of haunting a house, it haunts over the entire village or, principality or whatever you want to call it. And I think for the most part, it is a pretty easy to make analog. Like, this isn't a movie where if you come into it, it's like you said, it's very palatable. This isn't a movie where if you come into it, it's inaccessible or something, or like, oh, this is some strange, archaic tradition that my Western sensibilities just can't grasp. Like, no, if you've seen a horror movie, you will be able to understand this. And I really like that about the movie.
I personally get also little hints of like La Llorona, personally.
Yeah.
It's not like a one-to-one necessarily, but there are elements of that. And just generally speaking, how many stories have we heard of a woman that was done wrong by society and then her spirit comes back to haunt folks?
Countless.
Dan, I'm sure you probably got something too.
I think it's very, like I said, very palatable. And, she's hunting men for a particular reason. Oftentimes we see a ghost or a spirit that is doing something for a reason. And there's a way to, if you give the ghost what they want, they stop. So in this case, they had to sort of complete the marriage, so to speak. And that's what Stree wanted. And, there's also a way to like take away the powers of Stree, chopping off the braid without actually killing it. I think that's not quite as common, I would say, but still, we see that sometimes still.
And as a quick note, like within the kind of Indian culture, and this also applies, in again, also parts of the Middle East as well, but like hair, particularly like a woman's hair, it's like a really, really, really big deal. And like cutting your hair is also like a very, very, very big deal. Karita, you can tell them more. Shout out to my sister. But but yeah, like it's a huge, huge, huge deal in those cultures, like to cut a woman's hair or a woman cutting her hair. So I did like that aspect as well, that was like a way to kind of make her lose her power because it is very culturally, fitting. But we got to talk about a different woman now. She is the woman with no name, after all. And this movie's got a couple twists about her. So I want to ask you both right now, right? So let's say, just to give everyone a refresher, the first night is the first night they went to the temple. She had given Vicky, the request for the dress earlier that morning. She meets him at the temple, then she gives him the letter. That's night 1. Night 2, they meet again at the temple, and then they go out to, the woods where they have the intimate moment. She disappears. Night 3 is when she saves him from the Stree, and night 4 is when they finally defeat the Stree. So at the first night, did you think something was off about this girl? Like, how'd you feel about her?
I don't think, I'm not on the first night. Not for me.
Okay. All right. So Nico goes yes. What about her, Nico?
And I realize this is partially due to just the fucking way movies work, but she seemed a little bit too much right place, right time for me. Like, that much in and of itself was just a little suspect. And then once we got I require the 3 newt eggs and 4 rat's tails.
For sure.
Like, I
that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, like, that
so
part
night 2
definitely took me off guard.
I guess second day, kind of in between the two, Nico, when he reads the list, that's when you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay. And Dan, how'd you react to the list as well when you saw that list?
Yeah, same. I kind of knew something was up.
I was like, why couldn't she get the ingredients herself?
True. Now, one thing kind of to go back for a second, the first time that they meet was during the day.
Correct.
And he's like sitting on the rooftop or whatever, and she kind of comes up from behind him. And every time she does that, or anytime the Stree is there, there's like an audio cue, right? There's like sort of a standard like horror. Well, not just that, but there's also like the horror like soundtrack, the menacing kind of sound as somebody's
just
like sneaking up on
cues.
you, and then oh nope, just kidding, it's just a regular person. But they do that every single time that she's there. So that's like kind of looking back on the film now that we know that she is Stree or something. Anyways, that's a cue that I kind of recognized but didn't fully understand until later on in the movie.
And I want to say, when the friend B2 says, hey, I think she is, Stree, did you agree with him at first?
Yes, but as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, she's not Stree. Because as soon as the movie is like, oh, now all the characters know that she's the bad guy. Well, she's not going to be the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I will say as well, to quickly backtrack, Nico, when they had that little intimate moment in the woods where he was giving her the measurements, so to speak, how'd you feel about that moment?
I felt
How'd you feel
good.
about that?
I liked it. I really liked that scene. I really thought there was going to be a little smooch, perhaps a nice intimate, hip grab, pulling him into the chest, and just having a nice little moment there. But no, she has a real penchant for just fucking disappearing out of nowhere just because she can.
You could say that she ghosted him.
Yeah. Oh. Hey! She kind of did though.
And I guess kind of as in the last point, how do you feel about, so then she's kind of revealed as like a hero almost because she studied some arcane knowledge, and so she
studied
actually
the blade.
Yeah, well, she kind of did. And it's then like a double twist because then all of a sudden at the very end, she actually just took the braid for herself and gained the powers of, Stree. So first off, when you saw that, Dan, did you see that coming at all? Or was it just like a surprise?
I didn't see it coming, but I wasn't necessarily surprised either. Partly because it makes sense. I think they did a good job of sort of building her up throughout the movie where it wasn't just blindside, like, wait, that doesn't make sense. And like, just things like, oh yeah, we don't know her name and there is no way to contact her and things like that. That is like, okay, that makes sense that she is something. I guess they never really tell us exactly what. We don't know that she is Stree, but she's not Stree, if that makes sense. I don't know.
And Nico, how'd you feel about that twist as well?
Yeah, I feel similarly. I will say I don't think that she's necessarily evil. I don't think that her absorbing the braid,
the evil.
Yes, I don't think that necessarily is something that is evil. And I might be proven whole ass wrong because I haven't seen the sequel and I don't know if it's out yet at time of release, or recording, frankly. But I don't know. I really liked her character in general, and I fuck heavy with strong female characters, and she was a strong female character, so I fuck with her.
So believe it or not, this next question has nothing to do with your statement, but is Vicky a simp?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Oh, yeah.
You want to know what the most fucked up part is?
What's that?
She never paid him for the handmade dress.
Yo, right?
She saved his life.
She did save his life, but
okay, but to be fair though, yeah, like she never rendered payment for that dress.
Yeah,
he's got to chase her down. That's why she doesn't want to give him her name or number.
She's like, "Yo, oh no." But this movie also sets itself up for a sequel. Are we down for that? Nico, like you just said, obviously. I mean, did it seem cheesy at the end, or did it seem organic?
No, it seems actually really organic. Particularly because, like you both said, she's a character that is enveloped in mystery. We don't know her name. We don't know the origin of her powers or whatever. And I think giving us that little bit of a teaser is just the right way to do it when it doesn't seem phoned in. It doesn't seem forced or cheesy. It just seems natural that this is what her character would do. And frankly, I'm really psyched to see where they go from here.
Now, real quick, before we get to the acclaimed what would you do, Dan, I know you got some trivia for us, right? Dan is the master of all things trivia and trivial.
I got a couple things.
Oh, okay.
One, I'm kind of surprised we haven't said it yet, but Stree actually means woman. Or maybe, and I'm not entirely sure, but maybe in some cases also wife in some situations.
Okay.
Also, the location that this was filmed in, I believe, was Bhopal. And part of the reason why they chose that place is because when they got there, the locals told them of all the mysterious stories associated with with the town.
Fuck yeah.
And they had safety precautions that they had to follow to make sure
Fuck
that shit didn't go wrong, which I think is pretty fucking cool. but also like, damn, if I was filming a horror movie in a city that's like haunted, fuck that. Also, if I was in a city that was haunted, fuck that. I would just leave. But yeah. And then lastly, the actor Raj Kumar, who he played Vicky, he was actually the one who suggested the title Stree. So,
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice. Now, time for the acclaimed What Would You Do? I'm going to keep this one kind of short and sweet, but the three of us just go on a trip, you know what I mean, to India. We wind up in the village or whatever else like that. And
We're
I
doing
gotta
a
ask.
weird podcast outreach to rural ass India.
hey, small city, not rural.
Small city.
But-
Sorry. My apologies. My apologies.
Hey, so let's say it was you, like you just posted up on the rooftop one day after your hard work. For me, it'd be after I just finished making like 50 roti. I'm like, yo, time to come, take a break. And this chick comes up. She's like, hey, could you make me like a dress or whatever? Granted, it'll have to be whatever you can fucking do, okay? None of you guys can make dresses, so let's
Nope.
maybe tailor it. Like Dan, she's like, Dan, I need you to mix my studio session. And like,
Hey, Dan, mix my fucking snare.
and
Let's
Nico,
collab, fam.
Let's build.
and Nico, she's like, Nico, like, I could sure use a guest guitarist for this one song. And then for me, she's just like, could you come fuck up some animals in this jungle over here? Like, regardless, she comes up and like, are you the type to fall for like a pretty face? You gonna say yes?
Oh, fuck
Dan?
yeah, dude.
I probably would.
Oh,
I
yeah,
probably
agreed.
would,
Agreed.
yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, all agreed. But then like she never comes to the temples. She never takes any food or offerings from the temple, and she disappears like all the time. Are you convinced that she's a ghost at that point? Or are you just like maybe she's just like Batman or something? No.
Nah, she's just Batman.
She did say she was fasting.
That shit was a lie, fam. So she didn't have to take the offerings.
I mean, she could be a liar who also fasts.
I actually don't think. Well, Dan, do you think she was fasting or no?
No.
Yeah, I don't think she was fasting either. I think it was, but I don't think it was because she was the Stree that she didn't do whatever. I think because she deal in evil shit. So that's why she didn't want to accept any offerings from the temple and why she never went. Like, I don't think that was a coincidence. I think it was just not for being Stree, but because just a general witch.
Sure. Okay.
Now, let's say you're friends, aka me and Dan, and this is for everybody. We're like, yo, she's definitely, she might be Stree, dog. Like all these dudes are getting kidnapped or whatever else. Believe it at that point, or are you still gonna like simp hard?
I'm definitely still going to simp hard.
I would believe it.
Yeah, I might have to believe it too, bro. I might have to believe it too. Now, Nico is the one who would definitely get possessed because he is the biggest simp of
Oh,
all.
yeah. Absolutely.
But I gotta ask, who amongst us would have to be the lure for the first Stree, bro? Who's the one?
I feel like Justin would be.
Yeah.
Wow.
For one reason,
Why is that?
because it reminded me heavily of when we were back in Spanish class.
Oh,
We did the
shit.
fucking
No.
play,
No.
and we had this play, and Justin was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be the dragon. Yeah, I'm gonna be this dragon." Because dragon's badass, right? You got first dibs on being the dragon. And then later on, we realized that dragon was female. It was a pregnant dragon. And it was just a very comical situation. And I feel like that would be Justin's role in this. He'd have to be married. And for a while, they joked about maybe consummating the marriage with Stree.
I mean, to an earlier point that we discussed on the podcast, she ain't look half bad. Like when
Right?
she was a little more calmed down and human. So I was like, if I gotta take this one for the team, I mean, it's something I could say that no one else has done. So
I mean, that's true.
I
Yo,
might be like, hey,
bucket list, fam.
why not? So there's certainly that. And I guess last up, before the unnamed woman leaves, is there anything you would do to try and figure out who she is? Or like, what would you say to her? Because she was just like, think of me. Would you just accept that? Or would you be like, I need your IG or something, yo? Like, what would it be? What would you say?
I need your social.
Dan, on that identity theft tip.
Yeah, I mean, I would realistically try to do whatever I could, but in sort of keeping with the theme of her being some sort of spellcaster, what I would do is I would try and learn where she learned her shit. I would be like, oh, teach me your ways or something.
Wow. Okay, so Nika going full evil path here. Dan, anything from you aside from just socials?
No.
Okay, that's a very good way to find somebody.
Business card. Let's build, fam.
Dan will be like, that invoice will find you no matter what. Like,
That's right.
So I want to talk about the score and the criticisms and the good and the bad. So on Rotten Tomatoes, we are looking at a 79 from the critics and an 80% from the audience. This is not the first time this has happened. It's certainly not the last, but it is in between the two. So
What?
if you're not first and you're not last, you are in the middle of the two.
So we're all rating it a 79.5. That's it?
No. I'm saying, you know how like the critic score is a 79 and the audience score is an 80?
Justin,
Yeah.
just take your L and move on.
This is not the first time this has happened.
Right.
Right.
It's also can't be the last because how
So
could it
it's
be
in
the
between.
last? Yeah. Well, to make some more out of the situation, we turn to you, Nico.
God. Okay. This is a movie that I honestly really, 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 really enjoyed. And in talking about it with you all, I realized how much more I like it, and I just really fuck with it heavy. I am looking forward to watching more Indian horror because of this. I'm excited to delve deeper into that sort of subculture, and I have nothing but positive things to say about it. It isn't something that blew my mind, but I just had a great fucking time. I'm gonna give this an 87.
You got a favorite scene?
My favorite scene is when Vicky just interrupts Stree out of nowhere, like, "Hey, calm yourself. There's
Yeah.
no need for this language."
That's fair. That's totally fair. Dan, your score.
I agree a lot with what Nico said. I actually really like this movie. The one thing I didn't really like, I thought it was a little long. It was a little
2
over 2
hours.
hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the beginning-ish kind of dragged a little bit. Like the first 20 minutes I thought were great. And then at like 45 minutes in, I thought it was great. But then like that like second 20, 30 minutes in there, I just wish that part moved a little quicker. But other than that, I liked it a lot. I'm going to go with Nico's score, 87.
So favorite scene from you too, by the way?
Also, another one that I had already said before was when Jana was just like flipping out zombie or, possessed, and people were just
Candy
banter.
Sum 41 plays in the background.
So first off, I really like this movie as well. As somebody who's seen a lot of Indian movies and stuff like that when growing up, this is something that I think is super cool because I can show it to, like my American friends or whatever else like that. And it's something they can culturally get. It's just a good movie. And I think a good movie can appeal to a wide audience, which this certainly does. I like how easy it is for people to consume the local lore. I mean, I'm not from India, but I can still understand, the local lore and everything else like that. And I don't know. I just really liked it. I really dug it a lot. And I would actually give this an 87.
Hey.
Nice.
My favorite scene in this movie, and I'm gonna come off, like a total tryhard here, but I actually quite like the scene where he's kind of giving her the measurements in the woods or whatever like that. Culturally speaking, kissing, affection, that kind of stuff, like it's gotten a lot better, especially since, like back in the day, the stuff I was watching growing up, but like they don't typically have a ton of like affection, a ton of like really raunchy scenes or anything like that, or even like straight up kissing in a lot of movies just don't show that. And it's always been kind of interesting to me because the dancer at the party to me was like way hotter than a kiss would have been. So it's always interesting to see like the levels of that, kind of culturally speaking. But yeah, that's my favorite scene where he's giving her the measurements in the woods because I thought that was, it was a cool moment. So that's it for me. Now, recommendation. Would you recommend this movie to somebody?
Wholeheartedly.
For sure myself. Is this Golden Seal worthy?
I'm going to say yes, just because it gets me excited about more Indian horror, and I had such a good time with it. Like I said, I don't think this is necessarily a masterpiece, but it was a genuine pleasure to watch this. And I think that combined with the accessibility makes it Golden Seal worthy.
So, surprisingly, I'm going to say no to the Golden Seal for approval,
Oh,
only because I think it was just like a step shy for
I
me
understand.
of hitting that level. Dan, would you have given it the Golden Seal?
I think so. I, again, am just going to agree 100% with what Nico had said.
Well, then, yeah, unfortunately, but due to, once again, the haterisms of Justin, this one just misses out on the Golden Seal. But we still liked it. So, definitely check it out. Any last words before we bring this one to a cease?
Yes, actually. I recently helped out with some friends over at the Movie Night Crew podcast with producing their theme song, and you should go check them out. Tell them that Don't Open That Door sent you.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Also, I actually have something myself here, which is if you know of an Indian horror movie that takes place in a mall where a mall is like haunted and there's a bunch of rich people who go for like a pre-opening and they all get the shit haunted out of them, let us know. Because I saw that movie with Nico a long time ago and I would like to know what that movie is.
We've been trying
Where-
to recover it for like an hour.
And also, where can you reach us? Well, we're on Twitter and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're on Facebook, Don't Open That Door. And you can catch this episode as well as anything else we've done on our website. That's dotdhorror.com. But till next time, keep yourself safe. We hope you're having a great Halloween season so far. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.